If you feel like your yelps is now formed and you're getting a little bit better at yelping, you're getting your high note, your low note, this is for a little bit more advanced calling, just adding that middle tone note in there and learning how to cluck or putt, throw in some cutting in there. So that's what this video is about. Hey, I'm Jason. If you've seen the last video, I explained, how to place the call on your tongue, push it to the roof of your mouth, all that. If you're just brand new, just starting out and haven't seen that video, you might want to watch that one first. This one is just adding a little bit more to your calling. So now this is where getting into different types of calls may come into play. The last video I talked about just using a 2-reed call just to learn how to yelp. Now, if you have that down, you might want to look for something with a cut in it. There's everything under the sun these days, so it's really going to take some trial and error. What works for me may not work for you, and it just goes down the line because everybody's palate is different. So some calls just might not work as well for you. I personally like a 3-reed bat wing cut call. It's my go-to call. As a matter of fact, I make them just because I love this call so much. I can get the high notes on this, I can get the mid-tone, and then I can get the low notes. So I feel like I can do everything with this call, so really it's my go-to call. But you're just gonna have to experiment with a couple different calls and just see what works best for you. There's also different types of material that could make it easier or harder for you to blow on the tension. So when these are made, the tightness of the reeds will have a lot to do with it. Sometimes you just have to blow on a call for like a solid month before you break it in. And other times you can pull that thing right out of the case and start blowing on it and then it sounds good. So you really just have to, work a call, practice with it, and eventually you'll learn how to blow on that call. But this one I feel is just the easiest to blow on. So you got your 2-tone yelp down, you got your high and your low, and I'll do it in slow motion, so to speak. I'll just exaggerate the tones of everything. So hopefully you can hear the different tone there. The middle and the low is not a lot different. It's just the low really brings in a rasp. And to do that, all I'm really doing is relieving some of the pressure by opening my jaw a little bit, and the call will just kind of fall down from the roof of my mouth. Now once you feel like you got the high, medium, and low notes, you just basically speed that up. So you can hear it kind of really starts out as a high pitch, and then I can make it clean, or I can really bring in the low sound and just give it that raspy sound. I'll see if I can demonstrate this. This is kind of I'd say a clean yelp. There's not a lot of like raspy sound in there. It's just kind of a high, middle, and just a little bit of a low. I'd say that's like a clean yelp, and this is something with a little bit of rasp. So I'll do a clean yelp first, and then the second one will be more with the rasp in it, just so you can hear the difference. So basically the difference between those two calls is the one with the rasp, I'm just pushing a little harder from down here and just lowering that from the roof of my mouth just a little bit, and you can kind of control that raspy sound. So from there you want to throw in maybe a little bit of cutting in between some yelps. So to do those cuts, it's kind of like, again, this is hard to explain. It's almost like getting that high-end note on the beginning of your yelp. So you fill your lungs up with air, and it's just little bursts of air you're leaving out. One thing that I think is pretty important when you're yelping, you have to understand that, this is how turkeys communicate, and they're good at what they do, and they can hear that sound so well. Their hearing is just tuned in those tones. So making your yelps one note, like by itself, meaning they don't just run into each other like this. Instead, they're each their own note. It's sharp, and I use my lips to cut my air off to make that real sharp yelp sound. So this is what I mean by, you know, they just kind of run into each other. You might not realize you're even doing it. It's just like one yelp overlaps another, but I feel like it's important for them to be sharp like this. And you can see I use my lips to just kind of cut that air off to make it a real sharp yelp. And I'm going to do them back to back just so you can hear the difference. The first one will be just kind of running them into each other, and the second one will be each individual note, just so hopefully you can hear the difference. So hopefully you can kind of hear the difference of not running the yelps into each other. So make them sharp, make them each yelp its own individual note. Now we'll throw some cutting in between there, just some clucks just to kind of break it up a little bit. I mean, turkeys, you know, they make all kinds of sounds. So the more you can throw in there, the better. And using your hand to throw your sound in a certain direction definitely makes a difference. So a lot of times I don't want that gobbler to know right where I am. I'm going to try to throw my sound from the opposite direction, maybe to sound a little bit further away than what I really am. So make sure, you know, you try experimenting with your hand as well. Just this past season I was filming myself, and you can see me here in this video that I'm putting my hand up and he was hung up a little bit, so I was trying to throw the call behind me. Just to make it sound like maybe I was leaving or I wasn't interested in him. And sure enough, I mean, it brought him within 10 yards of me. So I'll do a little bit of a calling series here just so you can practice along, maybe hear it, and hopefully this will help you. So I really hope that this helps you a little bit understand the concept of calling, getting those cuts, yelps, got the 3-tone yelps. And again, it's just going to probably take some experimenting with some calls to really get the hang of it. Again, not all calls going to work for you, and what works for me might not work for you. That goes for anybody out there who is telling you like, hey, this call is good. You have to experiment. You have to buy a whole bunch of different types. But if you're still relatively new and trying to figure out your yelping, just go with something simple like a 2-reed with no cuts in it. It'll get you that high note and that low note, and you'll be able to yelp and call on turkeys with that. If you have any questions that maybe I can answer specifically, you know, leave a comment down below. I'll do the best I can to answer them. And I appreciate you guys watching.